Max, the golden retriever, hadn't eaten in days. His once joyful eyes now stared blankly at the door, waiting for someone who would never return. The family was desperate. Was this just heartbreak, or was Max holding onto something even more painful? A hidden recording would reveal a secret grief no one saw coming. Before we start, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. Max, a golden retriever, had always been full of life. But after his owner, Tom, passed away suddenly, something changed. The once joyful dog stopped eating, stopped playing, and spent his days staring blankly at the door. He was waiting for Tom to walk back in. His eyes were vacant, his spirit broken, and the family was at a loss. No matter what they tried, Max refused to touch his food. His tail remained limp, and his steps were slow, as if he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. Days passed, and the family grew desperate. They took Max to the vet, hoping for a medical explanation. The vet's diagnosis wasn't what they had hoped for. If he doesn't start eating soon, he won't make it. His grief is overwhelming him. It's not something we can treat. Max's refusal to eat wasn't just physical, it was emotional. The bond between him and Tom was so deep that losing Tom had shattered him. Lucy, Tom's sister, stayed by Max's side, refusing to give up on him. "I know you miss him, buddy," she whispered, sitting beside him on the floor. Max didn't respond. He barely even acknowledged her presence anymore. But one thing Lucy knew for sure: Max wasn't just grieving for Tom. He was also missing the routine, the comfort that had once been there every day when Tom came home from work. One afternoon, as the family was cleaning Tom's room, they made a startling discovery. A small voice recording device, hidden in the back of Tom's drawer. The label read for Max. It was a simple note, but its meaning was profound. It was a message Tom had left for his dog. Curious, they played it, unsure of what to expect. The tape crackled to life, and Tom's familiar voice filled the room. "Hey, buddy." Tom's voice said softly, "I know this is hard. I know you're scared. And I'm sorry I can't be there for you. But you're not alone, Max. I'll always be with you. Remember the good times and keep going. You'll be okay. I love you." Tears welled up in Lucy's eyes as she listened to the recording, her hand resting on Max's head. He looked up at her, his ears perking slightly, but it was clear he hadn't heard this message before. It was as though something inside him stirred, a recognition of Tom's voice, the sound of love that had been missing from his life for so long. But it wasn't just the familiarity of Tom's words. There was something in Max's eyes that suggested the message had done more than just comfort him. It had unlocked something deep within. Max stood up, his tail wagging tentatively. It wasn't a joyous wag, but it was something. He walked over to the stereo, his movement slow but deliberate, as though he was drawn to it, as though the voice had called to him. He nudged the speaker with his nose, his eyes still locked on the device. Lucy, still in awe, gently played the message again. This time, Max sat down, his head tilted slightly as he listened. He didn't move, didn't take his eyes off the speaker. It was as if he was hanging on every word. The family waited, holding their breath, unsure of what would happen next. Would the message be enough to bring him back, to shake him out of the deep sadness he had sunk into? Then, just as the tape finished, Max did something no one expected. He stood up and walked over to his food bowl, which had remained untouched for days. With a slow, hesitant movement, he sniffed the food. His tail gave a small wag, and he began to eat quietly at first, then with more enthusiasm as the seconds passed. Lucy's heart soared as she watched him eat, his eyes still soft with sorrow, but no longer empty. He had heard Tom's voice, and in some way, it had given him permission to let go of the pain just a little. It wasn't a miracle. There was still grief in Max's heart, but now there was also hope. Hope that he wasn't truly alone. Hope that he could move forward one step at a time. The family couldn't believe it. They watched as Max finished his meal, his tail wagging with a steadier rhythm. It was the first time in days that they had seen any sign of life in him. For the first time, he wasn't just existing. He was beginning to live again. It was a moment that made them realize how deep Max's bond with Tom had been. But it also showed them something else. Love is stronger than grief. Days passed, and Max continued to improve. He began to play again, his energy slowly returning. There were still moments when he would sit by the door, waiting, his eyes filled with a quiet longing. But those moments grew shorter. He was no longer consumed by grief. Instead, he had begun to accept the reality that Tom wasn't coming back. And in doing so, Max began to find his way back to the family who had always been there for him. Lucy, Mark, and Emily spent more time with him, comforting him, talking to him. They filled the void left by Tom's absence with their love, their patience, and their understanding. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they were committed to helping Max heal. They gave him the time and space he needed, and they watched in awe as he slowly began to return to the dog he had once been. One evening, as the family sat together in the living room, Max came and laid down at their feet, his head resting on Lucy's lap. It was a quiet moment, but it spoke volumes. Max had found his place in the world again, not in Tom's absence, but in the love that surrounded him. The pain was still there, deep inside, but it was no longer the only thing that defined him. Lucy smiled as she stroked Max's fur, her heart full. "We'll be okay, Max," she whispered. "We'll get through this together." Max's tail gave a soft wag, and for the first time in weeks, it felt like the beginning of something new. A new chapter, not just for Max, but for all of them. Max had learned that it was okay to keep going, to find joy in the small things again, even without Tom. And in doing so, the family learned an important lesson too, that grief may never completely disappear, but true love can heal even the deepest wounds. Max was finally ready to live again, and so was the family. The journey was far from over, but they had come through the darkness together, and together, they would continue forward, finding peace in the love they had for each other.